Hi, I'm Julia Lucille, and this is Living as a Musician. Today I'm talking to songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist Adelyn Rose. So welcome back to the podcast, everybody, and today I'm interviewing the incredibly talented Adelyn Rose. Her albums include Mezzanine, Ordinary Fantasy, and Anyway, which was released in 2020. And she has several EPs as well, a self-titled EP, Shower Spring, and Summering. So thank you for being on the show. It's really
Yeah,
good to see you.
thanks for asking me. It's really
Yeah,
exciting to be here. So good to see you again.
I know. So you're back in New York. So why did you decide to move from Minneapolis? Were you in Minneapolis right before?
Kind of. I was in Minneapolis I was in Minneapolis for like 5 or 6 years until about February 2021. And then I traveled with some friends for a little bit. And then as soon as things kind of started to open up, I started touring with Midwest band Humbird, which are like really old, good friends. I produced a record during the pandemic for that band. Um, and so we toured that record, and then I joined a band called Tomberlin that's New York based. And so I was kind of like floating around for the past year, crashing in Minneapolis, crashing in LA with um, some friends, and then ultimately realizing that I needed to be here in New York closer to the band, and I just kind of like needing to make a change. And after a year of like being sort of um up in the air and fluid, realizing it was like time to get an apartment.
Yeah.
And it's been so nice to be here. It's been just a month. I moved here on September 1st, and it's the 27th now. So it hasn't been long, but a lot of good friends here, and good to be like becoming part of the scene. And yeah, I love it. I love New York. It's a really great place to be.
And you were there uh before too. You were there. How long were you there? Like a year when you lived?
Not even. It was like 6 or 7 months only,
Okay.
and that was about 7 years ago. And that was an interesting time. It was filled with trials and tribulations. We had an apartment fire in the collective that I was living at, and just kind of like a weird, rough time emotionally for me, which ultimately was why I moved to Minneapolis to just be closer to family. But I did I did love it back then, and I was just like, I don't think it's my time. I'd love to try it again when I kind of like have stuff more figured out. And that does feel like now. So yeah,
Awesome. And that DIY space was called, what was it called? The White Barn
that
or
was this. Yeah, the silent barn.
the Silent Barn?
It was white,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, it
Did
was
that
white.
ever get rebuilt or did that resurface or was the fire the end of it?
After about 2 months, it was we were able to move back into the space, and then the space continued for several years. I was just like so out of the loop the whole time, and just didn't really stay in touch with any of the people. And I think there's a lot of turnover, people doing new residencies every like 6 months or a year. So I'm not really sure when or why it did end, but it is no longer. But yeah, it was a cool spot. They hosted a lot of really great DIY shows in the larger downstairs space, and then an upstairs small room with like more acoustic shows. So it was a really cool thing to be a part of for a short amount of time, and I'm glad I had the experience. Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Silent Barn. Collective living is an interesting thing to do. I'm glad I have one roommate now, but yeah.
Yeah, too much sharing, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but you were doing like a residency when you were there, even though it got cut short.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
my bandmate Johanna and I applied for a residency in the upstairs venue. Like two or three people would live there at a time and book the space, and that was kind of like that residency for that specific room. And I think I booked like one show in the time I was there, just because it was like such a weird time. But um, yeah, that was we were there as that booking residency. And the
Cool.
person that I'm living with now, Felix Walworth, I met at the Silent Barn, and they gave us a place to crash um, when we were displaced. And that is where I moved in this time. It's like the same place that I had lived in so long ago. And that it kind of feels like a full circle moment. And yeah, back
Cool.
here in Sunset Park is where we live.
Do you feel like you're like gonna be a New Yorker? Like, do you think you'll stay? Do you want
You
to stay
know,
for a really long time?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to, I do. I'm like committed to seeing it through this time and like really digging in, which I don't think I was able to do last time at all, really, a lot because like my mental health and just things. But I do feel excited to be here for a while. The year of transience and floating around this past year has really allowed me to like let go of expectations though for anything, and I'm just like, oh, we'll see how long I'm here, and I don't know. Uh I'm pretty open to anything. But yeah, for now, feels good.
Yeah. Do you find that like constant travel, constant touring thing to be like, do you feel like that works for you? Like that's who you are and it's sustainable, or do you get like really tired by that kind of
Both.
lifestyle? Both.
It's like the hardest thing, I'm sure you know. It's just like exhausting. It really like takes you to the limit and beyond with like all of like emotionally, physically. You're at capacity for so much of the time. And actually, I didn't really think I could keep touring at a certain point because I had so much like anxiety. I really am a homebody. And then when I started touring again after the pandemic, I was like, okay, I want to be able to see if I can do this, and I'm going to give it everything I can. And started seeing a therapist and started taking some like um, anxiety medications, and it just like it really did change everything. And the tours that I've been on, I like I literally toured for like 4 months straight with no break, and it was
Oh,
great. It was like somehow fine and felt weirdly sustainable and also psycho. I was like, I know I need to take a break because I'm like living in a non-reality. But yeah, the road is a weird and great place to be.
yeah.
Grateful for all the like ups and downs and people I've met and tough spots we've been in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite part about touring is the people you meet, and that's why I met you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember the first show, I can't remember how many shows we've played. I think it's like five or six at this point, but the first
Mm-hmm.
one was in Eau Claire and it was in a basement.
Was it at Vivian? A house called Vivian,
I think
maybe?
that was another basement show because I think
Oh.
I remember that name. But this first one, I just remember we played and I remember you did, it was just you and a drummer and you were kind of like coaching him through it, almost like you guys had like loosely practiced.
I wonder if that was with Elliot. I wonder if that was, well, you know Elliot. Was it with Elliot? I don't
I
know.
don't remember if it was
I think I kind of remember the first time your what's your dog's name?
Lila.
Lila. I think
Yeah.
she was like a tiny puppy in
Yeah.
there too. Yeah,
And
but
then I remember we walked downtown and like went to this bar that was like really long, and that's all I can really remember. But
I bet we went to the joint.
okay.
That's
But
like
it was a
the,
really fun night. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and then um yeah, and then meeting like the next few times meeting all the musicians that you are friends with in that area. And then you all kind of moved to, or not all of you, but some of you moved to Minneapolis at the same time. So I got to play with, I don't think we played with everyone there, but we played at the Astor Cafe, uh,
hmm
Humbird, and that was an amazing, really special show.
Yeah,
Remember
that
that
was
one?
really special. I kind of forgot about that one. That was a really cool night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Siri played solo maybe, and I know I played solo, like some kind of weird set with pedals and
Yeah.
yeah. And you were great. It was so good to see. Yeah, I remember
It
that night. That was
was
kind of a wild night.
And I liked how it was like a square in terms of the seating. Like people would be facing this way and this way. So it
That
was
was
like
cool.
everyone was just like really zeroed in. But yeah,
Yeah, on
and I
all
was so
sides.
stressed out that day because we almost missed it because it was snowing and there was traffic, and we got there like right when we were supposed to go on stage. So
Oh
I was
my
like
God. That's
about
like
to
a
lose my
classic,
mind.
like arriving in Minneapolis kind of night. Just like, what is all this snow doing here? Why is this happening to us?
Yeah, I just
Well, I'm
remember
glad
like,
you made it. Yeah.
yeah, me too. We were just inching on the highway and we like we're supposed to be there an hour ago, and I was just like, I I think I'm gonna go insane. But
Oh my God. I don't remember you being late. I think it was like the night in my memory was like so smooth sailing. It's always funny when you get to a venue and then it's just like part two of the night and it's totally and you're like
yeah.
kind of forget that the first half of your day was complete chaos.
Well, also because you never really know like what you're gonna walk into. You see
Hmm
maybe like the website for what the venue looks like, but I'm always surprised. I'm like, oh, it's like that, or that's not what I thought it
hmm
would. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, and then I was just wondering like how did this scene that you were in Eau Claire and then in Minneapolis, how did you guys first meet? Was it like college or
It was kind of I didn't really meet anyone in college. I met one person. I like met one best friend, Johanna, who lives out here in New York. We moved to Berlin together and then did the residency at Silent Barn together. And she's a union organizer now. She rules. But the scene that you would have met is mostly people who actually went to my high school. We all went to Memorial High School together, which had like a um pretty strong music program, specifically like the jazz program. And a lot of our pals were just like we met in high school there and kept playing. And um, I think part of that scene too that's a little younger were like theater improvisers, and then they became musicians, and we all formed this little DIY scene. We were super into like curating house show spaces and um, just really good energy. And we're all still really good friends. That kind of continued in Minneapolis, but people are kind of doing their own thing now. We still see each other a lot, but most of us aren't um like we're not all still living together and throwing DIY shows.
yeah.
Now we just like go to bars
Yeah.
and play there.
It's kind of
But yeah.
bittersweet that like music scenes don't last forever, people come together and then they come apart. But
Yeah, yeah, they're fairly uh not fragile, but they are transient, and it's something like it takes a lot of energy, and it's always nice to see like younger people continuing in those scenes. And I don't, to be honest, I'm not really sure what's going on in Eau Claire right now. I'm not really sure
mhm.
if there is, I think there are still a few house show spaces, but the pandemic also just kind of scrambled everything up and
Yeah.
shut things down. But yeah, yeah, I think I do feel like a little old to ever host a show in my house again,
Yeah.
unless it's like very adult, like sitting in chairs and drinking wine and not loud.
I mean, that sounds awesome.
over by like 8:30 at the latest.
I've been listening to Anyway and it's amazing, but I've Ordinary Fantasy and Mezzanine, I've probably listened to like 1,000 times each. I like
Oh,
love
that's so cool.
those albums so much. But I was just wondering, like, what will you explain the titles to me? Like, what does mezzanine mean to you? Like, what is that about?
Yeah, that was specifically about um so I was like 19, 20 when I was writing that, and was just starting to play shows. And I was coming to Minneapolis and playing at the Dakota, which is like at that time it was a lot of jazz. I think now it's all kinds of stuff, but I would come and see jazz shows there, and I would always sit up in the mezzanine. And it was like the first times I really felt like that was something I could do, and kind of aspired to someday like play in Minneapolis. It seemed like such a big city to me then. And the title track is specifically about like finding intrinsic motivation and inspiration to do that, to start writing songs, and also coming to Minneapolis and sitting in the mezzanine. So it just felt like a really personal, special little space, really like um specific location, but also symbolic of like where that feeling started. Um, so yeah, that it's yeah, literally about a mezzanine
I love
at
it.
a club that I would
Was
go to
it?
with my dad.
Oh yeah, awesome. Were you like aspiring? Was it about like performing, like I want to be on stage, or was it about like the jazz, or like what were you envisioning?
Um, it was more of realizing I could write music, because I had always played, I was an improviser in high school and college, playing like saxophone, woodwinds and stuff, and always playing standards or just like kind of free stuff, but never feeling like I had written anything that felt like something impossible. Like only famous people did that, or like geniuses. I don't know. It just didn't seem like something I hadn't considered doing. Um, but I was going to these shows and also starting to write music, and I was just like, maybe there's a place here for me too as a songwriter. So um
So you
and
didn't
at that
start till you were
yeah.
like 18, or you didn't start
Hmm.
songwriting?
No,
That's
I started,
amazing. And
yeah,
those were your
I
first
was
songs?
yeah, I was like
That's
improvising a lot though, and like really learning how to listen and like make a lot of musical choices long before that though, just like in combo, like jazz combo stuff. And so like I didn't really think of it this way at the time, but it was like writing just kind of like live. I don't know.
sure. Yeah. Writing on the fly
So,
and not recording it.
yeah, so like the instincts were kind of there, and then once I kind of shifted gears and started thinking of like the form of a more traditional like um lyrical song with like verses and choruses, I had it felt so easy at first. I feel like now I think too hard about it, but at first I was like, oh, there's like a formula and you just like write a melody that sounds good and then like words come from somewhere and then you're done. And I
Mhm.
was like so psyched about it. Now I'm like, it's so hard now. But you know, when you first start and you just feel like you have all the keys and can unlock the whole world of music. Because yeah, that writing mezzanine was like that for me. A lot of those things I didn't really think much about. They were just kind of like flow statey things. It's like embarrassing to me now to listen to that music because it feels kind of like
Mhm.
reckless or something. But was yeah, it did feel like a little bit of magic writing that and just like not really knowing where it came from and
Mhm.
experiencing that feeling and inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes songwriting is like that for me, where it's like dictation, which is kind of crazy. I'll be like
Hmm.
hearing a melody and then just like playing it, and then hearing the words and then just singing them. And you're like, where in the world did
It's so
that come from?
cool.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's I think magic is real.
Yeah. And then like sometimes it'll be right before I go to bed. So that actually drives me insane.
Hmm.
I'm so tired, but I like try and get it into my iPhone. I like always keep it right here.
Yeah.
I'll be like humming into the iPhone and trying not to wake up Paul. And yeah,
It's such a relief when you do record it and you're like, ah, it's safe. The idea is there.
yeah. I always hum the melody and then the bass line, and then I'm like, okay, that's enough, you
Hmm. Yeah,
know.
that's great. I would love to hear your memos.
No.
They're always just like so they're I if someone got a hold of my phone and listened to these kind of like memos I leave, I would be horrified. I
That
would
is
have
a
to like
weird
go
thought.
into the woods and never come back.
There's a
Just
lot
like
of bad
disappear.
lyrics on my phone right now, and like really
Oh
high
yeah, the worst.
volume too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to sort through it.
Hmm.
What about Ordinary Fantasy? What does that title mean?
Ordinary fantasy felt like I was daydreaming a lot at that time. I was like, had gone through a breakup and also just like was trying to figure out where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and wasn't like really in reality a whole lot. And I felt like, and by that I mean, I guess I was pretty like present with life and stuff, but kind of felt like so much of what I wanted was sort of far away. Like like yearning for this person that wasn't in my life anymore and like wanting to take the next steps with music and like level up, but not really accomplishing that or something. And also, but also like in a good way, just kind of like um a lot of goal setting, um a lot of just like dreams, I guess. And that felt like an ordinary part of my life, that kind of like inspiration and feeling. Um, I haven't thought about that record in a really long time. I'm kind of like searching for, I'm like, what was that about? What
Yeah,
songs are on that record? What was going on?
yeah.
Yeah, but like making the record, that was the first one that I had more of a hand in production. Um, and so that also felt like this ordinary fantasy, this thing that like I could do and felt like a really big dream. And it was just like a simple thing to um to just sit down and figure out how to record stuff.
Mhm. Was there
Yeah.
a studio you recorded those in Eau Claire?
I
Yeah.
recorded Mezzanine at my partner at the time's apartment, and I recorded pretty much all of Ordinary Fantasy at April Base, which is like the like Justin Vernon's studio place. Not with him, but he sometimes rents it out to people, to like friends. And so I recorded with a really good friend, engineer and producer, Jamie Hansen, and my band went there for like a week and did it.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was that felt like really special to go there. That place felt very fantasy-esque also.
Is it like in the city area or is it like remote?
It's a little out. It's just probably like 15 minutes out of town, which when you're driving out of Eau Claire, it becomes the country pretty fast.
Mhm.
So you're kind of like out in the woods, and it's a pretty modest little like ranch style house in the woods. And there's like a really big, beautiful live room. I think it used to be a swimming pool, and now they have like beautiful like wood floors and sound treatment and stuff. So it's a cozy, yeah, it's a nice little place to record. I'm sure it's different now. That was like almost 10 years ago or whatever, but yeah, that's where we did that.
When
And
you
then
say
anyway,
swimming pool, do you mean like you'd go down
let
into it?
well, not quite. It was kind of one of those houses where it's like multi-level, kind of like each level is like 8 steps away from each other, that kind of like built in the 60s kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then like there was a big kind of lower level where I think there used to be an in-ground pool, but now it was just like a big empty room. You didn't like go down into what used to be the pool. I think it had been filled in. And so it just kind of looked like a bit like a dance studio or something,
But it was
with
in the
like
house. It wasn't like
it
out.
was,
Strange.
yeah, yeah, like I think the pool was inside, like it was a big indoor swimming pool.
Or
I know, really weird.
yeah. Um, so then with anyway, so you saw yourself as already like producing Ordinary Fantasy, but did you share that like with other people? Did you do it like with other people or did you just like wear that hat all on your own?
um I didn't wear it as much as I wanted to, which is what led me to like fully producing anyway by myself. But um the that second LP was like I could hear everything in my head that I wanted, but I didn't really know how to use the DAW or the console. And so and I didn't really have the language for what I wanted because I didn't really know, like, I didn't know the system. And so I was trying to explain things. I remember feeling frustrated a lot, like having so much fun, and it was like a great time, but also wanting control. And that's, it's, it's a, it's a good thing, and also like I wish I could kind of let go of that control sometimes. But I had really specific ideas of what I wanted to hear, and um and I am really happy with how it turned out. But I was like, okay, I really want to learn how to do this. I also just felt super excited about recording. Like I think my brain works in the right way for that kind of stuff, and I was super curious. And so Um, I started learning on my own. I got Logic and Pro Tools, or Logic and Ableton on my computer from my brother, he is an engineer. Um, he kind of showed me what to do, and then I just sort of started going at it and was like obsessed. And um, that then really that became my songwriting process, to like songwriting and production and arrangement really just became intertwined. And so as I wrote a song, it'd be like the song, but then as I was doing that, like layering other things in, adding, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so I'd be like, okay, that's the words and like the chords. And now obviously I have to record like clarinet, flute, and saxophone and
Mhm.
like bass, and suddenly it's like this arranged thing. And so with Anyway, I was kind of doing all of that as I went. And by that time, I had moved to Berlin, and it was kind of a way to stave off loneliness when I was there, but also just like feeling so inspired by the newness of that city and like the electronic scene there. Um, that was just, yeah, I I recorded a lot of it while I was living there and some of it when I came to New York too. So, uh yeah, that was the trajectory of like the production journey in those early days.
Yeah. Sort of
And I
like,
really didn't know what I was doing. So it's like that is also a little embarrassing to listen to because now I would make a lot of different choices. But that's like I feel like such a good way to learn, just like crashing into it.
yeah, I think, I think, I think it's a masterpiece, but I understand those feelings like looking back at like older work and thinking of what you would do differently in it and
Hmm.
all that. So, why did you go to Berlin? Like, I remember you going, but I don't remember why. What, did you
Yeah,
just want to
same.
go to, did you just want to go to Germany?
I guess.
You were
I
young and coming
yeah, I
I love
I had never like left Eau Claire, Wisconsin ever, and
it.
Johanna graduated a year before me, and she was like my really close friend, bandmate, and she traveled for a while and then settled down in Berlin and was like, I think I want to try living here. It's really easy to get an artist visa. The cost of living is low. There's like a very vibrant music scene. And it's just like a cool place. And for some reason, I was just like, sign me up. And I don't know. I was just so down. I needed a change. I knew I wanted to leave Eau Claire, and there was nowhere else I really knew. I was kind of like, I'll go anywhere. Um, sorry, my battery's dying. I need to plug it in. I was like, I'll go anywhere. I don't really know anyone anywhere though. And she really wanted me to go there and said she'd help me out. And sometimes like one person is all it takes to like support you and give you a green light. And I'm really grateful for that like opportunity. We were good friends, but I also didn't know if we would really like get along very well. But as soon as I got there, we really hit it off and like, yeah, had a crazy year. So I got to Berlin, applied for a freelance artist visa. Um, and when I was there, I taught lessons and I worked at a radio station as an engineer
Cool.
and played in some bands that I found on Craigslist and like didn't really learn German, but like kind of a little, learned a little German. And it was like there weren't many bands that were playing like with instruments like guitars. They called them like guitar bands.
Oh,
Um,
that's funny. So what were they playing? Like keys?
like everyone was a DJ. It was like a lot of electronic music, which I was not familiar with at all, but then um, was so inspired by that kind of work and went to some clubs and shows, and all my friends were DJs, and that kind of that inspired that record a lot too, which might not probably isn't apparent to the listener, but to me it was like, oh, I can learn how to use these tools of like a lot of my friends were writing and making their things in Ableton, and and that encouraged me to, really dig into that kind of composition through like an electronic DAW.
Cool.
So yeah. And then I moved back after like 9 months or something. And yeah, I would love to go back. Berlin is awesome. It's super cool.
Mm. I just have two more questions and then I'll let you go. But it was really, really good talking to you and seeing
You
your
too.
face. Um,
Are you coming here ever?
it's funny becoming a mom because I feel like now, like I used to daydream about becoming a mom, and now, and I used to be so like, I did so much touring that I very much like satisfied it in my life for a while, almost like over satisfied it. And then now I'm back to like fantasizing about it. I'm like, golly,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be so fun to like be on stage and
Mm-hmm.
travel and but like I don't really know when it will be. Like I'm definitely here for now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have an album that I want to finish and release soon. And then, I also don't really know like what that process is going to look like being a new mom. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if there's going to be like just really short tours or like I'd be really open to like going to New York and going to LA and, like that's it. Like just
Yeah,
really
totally.
zeroing in on like what I can do and like where I feel like there'd be the most impact. But I have to be creative now, at least for a little
Mm-hmm.
while. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
totally. I have another friend who just had their first baby, and
Mhm.
he's, I think, like 5 months. His name is Rudy. He's so cute, but he my friend is also trying to find the balance. He's very determined to like keep touring.
Mhm.
Um and he is more of the stay-at-home dad. So, but he's finding ways to make it work even as early as like now. He's just doing some little weekend things, and he's said
Mhm.
it's feeling really satisfying, and future feels bright on that front. So,
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
I do hope you come here sometime
I
and
would love
play.
to. I would love to. Um,
Hmm.
so what's next for you? Like what's you were talking about goals earlier. Like what are
Hmm.
your next goals? Like what do you want to do in the next few years and while
Yeah.
you're in New York and
Um, I'm I feel very lucky to be at a place where I have a good touring gig, like something that is I really like the music, and we're going on tours that I'm very excited about. Tomberlin is going on tour with Tegan and Sara next month, and so
oh,
I'm hoping to like do those tours, and hopefully with Humbird too. And also touring my own things sometimes, but personal goals would be getting some sort of studio setup up and running here, because I really love producing and arranging and engineering. That I feel like is really where my heart is. And so having some sort of setup there and being able to record people professionally here.
mm,
Um, and also just like playing out in New York a bit. Nothing, I guess those aren't super specific things, but just uh, digging into this city and trying to see, I don't know, just like I'm struggling to even like articulate the feeling, but it feels like a very rich experience. There's a lot of potential to just figure out who I am musically. And I guess that is the real goal. Stay here for a while and, find a cool balance of touring with bands I love, recording bands I love, and writing music too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am working on, I have a couple albums that are in the works right now. Two of them, one of them is just instrumental improvisation. One is like a very experimental, improvised, like long piece that has like stitched together voice memos and wind arrangement stuff. I'm really excited about that one. And then one that's just more like straightforward songy songs.
Cool.
So yeah,
Well, cool. Yeah, maybe I'll come to your studio someday. We
that'd
could
be
do
so
some
that'd be so
recording.
fun.
Yeah.
Felix has a tape machine, so we could record the tape, and they have a harp too.
A harp?
Yeah,
Wow.
I can't play it, but it looks cool.
I mean, you guys just do like a
I know, that's all we'd really need.
just one.
It'd be so dramatic.
Yeah. Well, my last question for you is what advice would you give to other musicians or to your earlier self? Like if you could talk to your 15 or 20-year-old self, what advice would you give them that would make the journey just easier, or things you wish you knew earlier?
Hmm, that's a really good question. I feel like once I stopped being afraid of like messing up or playing something that wasn't cool. I like really wanted to be cool for a long time,
Or
and it wasn't very fun.
it's oppressive.
Totally. And I guess just like keep checking in with yourself and make sure that you're having fun or like a meaningful experience. Like if you if you like it, keep going, but like don't I don't know. I don't have good advice. Just
No,
have
I
fun.
think
Just
that's
have
great
fun, I
advice.
guess.
I think that's great advice. Like,
It's so hard to like give advice to like let go of certain feelings because that's just like part of the journey that you have to figure out. But like once I like let go of everything and didn't care if like anyone heard it or liked it or if I really what when I was making Anyway, my hard drive crashed and I lost everything once. I think that
wow.
was an important part. There, I think two or three songs on that are just the demos that weren't able to be mixed because all I had were like it was a bounce of the first whatever. And I was like, this sucks. I can't make it better. And I was just like, I have to let go of everything and just accept what the thing is. And that's all. And I think once I let go of expectations and had a good sense of humor about it, I think if you can have a good sense of humor about what you're doing, not take yourself too seriously, then you've set yourself up for success forever.
Yeah, I think the keeping it fun thing is really important. And sometimes like I've gone through periods where I'm doing something and it's working, so I just like keep going. And sometimes I like yeah, I've had moments where I'm like, but is it still fun? Or am I
Hmm.
just doing it because it's working? And then,
Yeah. And
dropping
I
some
mean,
things,
yeah.
revising. Yeah.
And that's not to say it's always going to be fun. Like I've definitely wanted to like chop my head off while I'm doing some production, just like this is not fun anymore. This is work. But I guess it's more of just like if it feels real, if it feels like it still feels kind of authentic to yourself and your instincts. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still looking for advice. Kids have the best advice. They're just like, what do you mean? You're like, I don't know. Like just do it. Just like make a song about what is going on in your life.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, thank
keep
you
it
so
light.
much. Keep it
Thank
light. That's hard for
yeah,
artists to do, but
it's
that is very
impossible.
nice. Thank you so
Can't
much for talking to me and being on the podcast.
All
All
right. Well,
right.
I will hopefully see you sometime soon. And
Yeah. Enjoy New York.
thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Right now, I'm doing a giveaway. I'm giving away a copy of my album Thonic on vinyl. And one of the songs from that album is playing now. It's called Plot of Ground. And if you want to enter to win a free copy of the album on vinyl, I'm also giving away free shipping. If you want to enter to win, you can go to julialucille.com/giveaway. That's julialucille.com/giveaway. See you guys next time.